My husband is just struggling with my masking tape, but for today's class, you'll need 18 gauge wire, a wire straightener, which can be either this style or the pair of pliers with the nylon teeth. Crystals, 6mm, or beads, stones, whatever you would like. Thank you. And masking tape. So I'm just going to cut my 2 pieces that I'll need today, and then I can set it aside. Tack them to the side of the table. Hopefully the cat doesn't take them. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Okay, so right now I need to cut 5 pieces of my wire, 10 inches. So I'll grab my measuring tape. You know, I don't normally, but to there. Okay, so just go ahead and cut 5 pieces. I'm going to do the same. And then we're going to harden them a little bit with the wire straightener. It not only straightens it, it hardens the wire. Hold on.
I'm sorry, how long again? 10 inches you said?
10 inches or so. Like if you have a little longer, don't worry, because we can trim off some. And like I always say, it's better to have a little bit to trim off than to worry about not finishing. Okay, so, and you need 5 pieces. We're going to do this project twice today because I want to show you how to measure it for when you want to put on beads. We're going to do it without the beads first and then with the beads after, just so you can see where you want to place your beads after you've made it once. I normally don't do it this way, but I think it kind of needs to be done. When I'm just sort of eyeballing it, I sometimes get the beads off to one side of the bracelet and not straight through, right in the center, because we're only putting on 3 or so beads. And this way, you can hold the finished one that doesn't have beads, and you can see where you want to start your beads. Okay, so I'm going to run these through the wire straightener a few times. Oops, come on, open. This wire straightener, you just go like so. Put it in between the 3 strands and run it up. With the pliers with the nylon teeth, you just put the nylon teeth over the wire and run it. Oops. And you don't want to forget the part that you've been holding the whole time. Just run it the other way for a couple of tries. And you can see it not only straightens it so much, but it hardens it. Like the sound is so different. This one feels like flimsier than this one. So just do that with all 5 wires. If you don't have a wire straightener, you can use a little hammer. Just make sure you're not flattening your wire, or use your hands. Just the heat of your hands will toughen it up a little bit. So, and remember, at any time, if you have any questions or if you're having a hard time, just unmute, ask me the question. I'm always open to answer any questions you have. Okay. Let's do. Okay, so our Thursday class is another Byzantine variant, which is Byzantine lace. We did Romanoff, which is a Byzantine variant last week, and this week we are doing the lace, which is one of my faves. Anything with Byzantine is something I really like. Okay, this one I had cut too small. I'm just going to toss it over there so I don't get mixed up again. So I know we did the Romanoff on Thursday, and it seemed to be one that people got quickly. They understood how to do it, and I know Brian has made some since. Jaga, did you make some? You're usually my other one that makes everything. Oh. Okay, this is my last one. Now is when the masking tape or painter's tape. Painter's tape actually works a little bit better. I just didn't have any at hand. So I'm using my masking tape. So we want to put all 5 pieces, and we're not just making them into a bundle. We're going to form the bottom, and I will switch cameras in a moment, and set them so they're in one strip. All right. And then what you do, take your masking tape and tape that bottom part nice and tight. I'm just going to tear this off because there's way too much here. Okay, so that we have our 5 strands. Now, we're going to name the spaces that they take, not the wires themselves. So this is space number 1 that it's in, space number 2, space number 3, 4, and 5. Okay. This wire we are not calling space, or we're not calling it wire 1. We're calling it in the space number 1 because the spaces stay the same, the wires move. So now let me switch cameras so that we can get a better view. And you know it takes me a moment.
Lori, when you come back,
Yes.
How did you use that wire straightener thing?
The 3-prong, the 3 one?
Okay. I don't know if you can see me. Yeah, it's got 3 white things.
Okay, let me just get back here. The toggle on my computer. Oh, there, it came up this time.
No.
It doesn't come up all the time.
Yeah, this thing here.
Okay, so this is my favorite wire straightener. I have another piece over here. And all you do is you fold, let it be flat out and fold it around, and you just run it.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
It's the simplest tool in the world, but it does such an amazing job.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let's turn this on. Okay, so I have my 5 wires. I want to aim 2 to the right, 2 to the left, and 1 straight up the center. Okay, so this is space 1, space 2, space 3, space 4, space 5. I don't want to be too close to the camera. Okay, so now what we do, we're all going to work in front of ourselves, not behind the wire, but in front. So I place my finger and my thumb on space number 1 wire. Just want to get that up. And I hold it tight so I can get that little bit of curve, and I move it to space number 3. Okay, so now this is space 1, space 2, space 3, space 4, space 5. So I move 1 to 3, 5 to 3.
Can you do that again, please?
Oh, it's completely the same thing the whole time. So I'm taking number 1 and I'm moving it to where number 3 was. Okay, I'm always bringing the furthest one to the center. So now this one comes to the center. And you see, I'm just placing my finger and thumb where I'm bending it so I can allow it to curve. Let me get a few movements and then I will show you how it looks. Just keep your wires separated. These shouldn't overlap. It's a lot of adjusting as you go. But if you look, see how lovely that is already? It's this lacy Celtic style weave. So I want to bring, if I stopped and I have to look, I look at which of the middle one, where the middle one came from. The middle one came from this side, so I'm going back to this side. And it just comes up to the middle spot.
If you only would start from the beginning, I'm kind of lost.
Okay, so the beginning, you just put the 5 pieces together.
Right.
With the tape, and then this is the beginning. Okay, you move 2 to the side, 2 to this side. So this is space number 1, space number 2, space number 3, space number 4, space number 5.
Right.
And you put your thumb and finger to hold this in place as you move it to the center spot. space
What
number
did you
3.
move?
Pardon?
You moved it furthest away?
Yes, space number 1 becomes space number 3.
Okay, where does 3 go? Nowhere.
It just sits there. Yeah.
Okay.
And then we take space number 5 and make it space number 3. So we're always bringing from the outer side into the center. Okay, so this one is very messy because I'm stopping and starting, and it's very loose. Yours will be a lot tighter, like that more. Okay, so as your tension comes together, you'll find that it gets really smooth. Okay, so I'm going to take from this outer side into the center, and then from this outer side into the center. And that's the only move you're making. Now, when we're going to add crystals in the second one, you just drop them on the center piece every once in a while, however you'd like it. So I'm going to keep going.
So your spacing is only what you've chosen.
I'm sorry?
Your spacing between the wires is just what you've chosen to do.
Yes, just so that I can keep these ones angled that way, those angled that way, and I try and keep this one as much in the center, just so I can visually see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so now I feel here, and the last one to come into the center came from this side, so I'm going to this side. And I just like to readjust them so that I can visualize these two, and the center. All right, and just keep going. I don't normally stop the whole time, I just weave. And it gives it a better tension, I find. So I'm going to keep going. And any questions, keep asking, that's fine.
Sorry, could you remind me how long the pieces were that you cut?
I cut them about 10 inches.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So how's that look, guys? You can see the weave coming together. When we drop crystals in the second, and don't worry that it's open here. We'll fix that at the end. When you drop crystals in, you can drop them wherever you want, but I like to do the one as sort of a measure so that you know where you want your crystals to go on the one with crystals. Okay, so you just keep going until you have approximately 3/4 of an inch left of wire. So I'm going to keep going. Can you see okay? I'm not going too high up on there. I had my camera angled up higher this time so that we could do it better. Okay, so you see the difference here compared to here. When you start, it's always looser because you're trying to move those wires in neatly. But if you have a section like right here that's tighter, you can just go like this and pull it a little wee bit, and you see it straightens out. Or if you have a piece that's thick, you can squish it like so and try and get it, you know, pretty regimental. You can also have like a spot here where it goes in and a spot here where it goes in, and then it curves up here. Now there's so much you can do with wire because it's so forgiving. So I kind of like that. Now, when we get to the end, we need our cutter, and we're gonna just trim them. I want the top one, the center, and it doesn't matter which one is in center at that point, to be about 1/2 an inch, 3/4 of an inch. And then these, we just sort of angle in towards that one. So I want it sort of on an angle, and we're going to trim down these two as well. Oops. That one is really long. Okay, so I have it just a little angle like a triangular shape going up, pyramid, whatever. Now, we need our round nose pliers. This is how we finish it off. We start with our space number 1 wire, tip of our wire, tip of our pliers, make a little loop, okay? And then we're going to go over here, and I like to turn it so I'm making the same motion. Tip of our wire, tip of our pliers with our number 5 spot. Okay. And then we just take our flat nose pliers, placing that in, I'll show you as soon as I get it there, flat, and we're going to roll it. So I will move my fingers before I do it. We're going to roll it and adjust and roll, adjust, and maybe one more turn, and then we can do it with our fingers. Okay, so this one is on this side of my bracelet. I want to bring it over here to the back part. That will now be my front. All right, just so that these wires are tucking over the other wires. All right, so I'm going to roll this one as well. I do need my pliers.
Would you mind bringing your arms further down, because
No
see more of
problem.
your body than your arms.
No problem.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so we're just taking it and we're rolling it up into a spiral. Like so. Hope you can see it well. I'm trying to keep my fingers out of the way. And then I want to move it beside the one I already did.
Excuse me, I missed the part from where you cut them all, the 5 of them in angles. I don't know,
Okay.
I've got my angles. If you could explain that bit again?
I'm going to show it right now because I'm going to do it with the next 2.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so
Thank
we
you.
take, oh, no problem. And we're doing it once more as well. And we also have to do the other end. So everything in my classes, everything gets repeated at least 2 or 3 times. I can't stand when I'm doing something and they're going too fast and then they don't repeat it again. I can't do it. All right, so we take the tip of our wire, tip of our pliers, and I'll get my fingers out of there as soon as I get it placed properly. Okay, oops. And we just turn it into a little loop, the smallest loop you can get. Make sure it's closed so that it's not going to catch on anything later. Those are my cutters. Okay, and then we take a pair of flat nose pliers and we place it so that, oh, those are my thinner ones. Let me get the thicker ones. We place it so it's in the pliers flat. So we're not going through that loop we made. We're just holding on to that loop. Sort of our, okay, and then I'm going to go from this angle because it's a little easier. So we hold it like so, and we turn it. And then we move our pliers back to where we had them, and we turn it. And we just keep going like that. Now, this wire is back here, so I want to make sure that it lands in front. So you see how I have all 3 there now? You're gonna do the same with this one, and then we'll do a little bit bigger one for the top one. Okay, so I'm gonna make a tiny little loop on the end, spiral it like these, and lay it over that one, just sort of hugging it. And that keeps our wire in the right place. Okay, so let me get this one started. Okay, there's my little loop. There is a little bit sticking out, so I'm just going to take my flat nose pliers and I'm going to squish it so that it's nice and flat. And then again, because of the angle we're at, if you come from the top and just see, I'm just moving my pliers from this spot, holding them nice and tight and rounding it down. And I get that beautiful little spiral. Can you see it okay? There we go. And now I'm going to move it in beside the number 4 spot. So now I have 4 of them spiraled up there, And I just have to do the last one. So start with the tip of your wire, tip of your pliers, make that little loop, and then move to your round nose pliers, set them on there flat, and roll it. Now, generally when I get to that spot, I can roll it with my fingers, but not everyone has the same strength. So I'm just gonna roll it with my pliers. And when I get here, this is where I can choose. Do I want to leave it right there? Do I like the look of it? Or do I want to do this and just flip it over and down in front of the others, like so. So I just brought it from up here and flipped it down. So they're just little spirals the whole way for those 5 little wires, and it holds everything steady. Nothing's moving out. Those wires aren't going to slip out of there. So now we turn it over, and you can remove the tape and just open this back up a tiny bit. Okay, just spread them out. They will sort of tell you where they're supposed to go. Don't move them around too much. And even if you get it wrong, the one, it's not going to show up much. Don't worry. Okay, so I have my 5. Now, I want to do the weave again to finish it off. Because we have to tape it, that first little section, about 1 inch, doesn't work right. Excuse me for 1 second. My husband didn't match my tea mug to my shirt today. Okay, now the other thing is, we're working here. Let's see. This is now our front. We have to flip it over because we're working from our front going that way. Now if we work from our back going this way, it works out. It's just the way it is. Okay, so the last one to go over, I think I twisted it while I was doing it. Okay, so I'm working this way. That's still the front. All right, then I have to go to the back. Let me just get my head straight for a second. Give me 1 second. I'm just having a blonde moment. Okay, yeah, I do have to turn it around. So I'm going to come from here to the 3rd spot and here to the 3rd spot. And I'm just going to keep going until I have the same amount of wire that I was working with at the other end. So I think that's fine. And that's big enough, so I don't have to worry about the length. I'm going to do one more twist there and there. Okay, so now I'm going to trim it. I want the 3rd spot, the wire in the 3rd spot, to be long, and these just to trim up. So there's not much to trim here. Just gonna, oops, I put them up here so I wouldn't use them as pliers. There and there. That one I'm going to leave. And then these 2 need a little bit of a trim. Just like so. Now we're going to do the same little spirals. So taking your pliers, you're starting at space number 1 wire, making a tiny little loop. Oops. And then you're going to take your flat nose pliers. I want my big pair. I have 2 different pairs here, so. And again, if it helps, hold it like so. Roll your wire. Now remember that you want your spirals to be on the same side. So here, I want them out here. So I'm just going to roll it down, and then I'm going to tuck it in front of those loose wires and turn it just so I can work on the other side easier. Whoop. Okay, and we make our tiny little loop. Grab our pliers, hold it flat. And I'm going to tuck it in beside its fellow there. I'm going to start on these 2. Sorry, I pinched my finger. All right, so tiny little loop on the end. Try not to get any sticking out from there, but I try to go right to the edge. All right, so tiny little loop. Grab your flat nose, hold it flat, and start winding it. And remember, you're just going to tuck it in there on top of the other two. And same thing with the other two, the next two. So this one I went a little over, so I just grab it and squish it with my pliers. And then I start winding. And I want to squish it in there. And same with the last one. The last one we're going to flip over when we get it to the bottom and put it in front of everything. This bracelet does not require a clasp. It's just one that you slip on and off your arm. And I flip it over and I just squish it with my fingers. Okay, so there's our bracelet. Once you have it to this spot, I just have to move my mouse. My cursor was in the way. You place it on your wrist and you just gently push it down and around your wrist. I'm not going to do that right now because I want this as my measurement for my second one. The second one I want to put crystals in. So I want to see, okay, I'm to this spot, I want to drop my crystals. And then I'm to that spot, I want to stop dropping crystals. Just to give me the idea of how far I have to go. All right, so cut yourself 5 more pieces. Any questions? It's a pretty straightforward weed, but any questions?
Look at all like yours.
Is it the tension?
Yeah, it's like mine's skinny, skinny, skinny.
Okay, so when you're moving your wires, keep your finger and thumb there and sort of round around your wire, around your fingers, so there's a little bit more opening.
I see.
And that's just your tension. That's something you'll improve on with time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. As long as you get the weave down, practicing is what you'll need. Okay, so 5 pieces. And I don't think I'm going to bother with the wire straightener with this set. I'm just going to do one with the crystals. And they are 6mm crystals, but as I mentioned, you can use stones, pearls, anything that's about 6 mil and will fit on the 18 gauge wire or 20 gauge, 18 gauge, yes. So Swarovski crystals do not fit on an 18 gauge wire. So don't get all fancy trying to use Swarovski. That's what I did when I first started doing this bracelet years ago. I went and bought a bunch of Swarovski and then got them home and realized they don't fit on the wire. I think I still have those too. I don't use a lot of Swarovski. I do.
Class that I needed both for, or didn't.
Sorry? Oh, you're not muted. Okay, so I have my 5 pieces. And again, I didn't measure. I'm just going to tuck this up in my reel.
A question, please.
Yes.
You're using 18 gauge. Is there a range that you would find suitable? I'm guessing some of them would be too soft, too thin.
This that I'm using personally is 20 gauge. But I like the 18 gauge better for this project. It's just I have my giant spool of 20 gauge, and I think I have one little spool of 18 gauge left. So I figured you can't see the difference. And because I hardened it with the wire straightener, it's very stable. If you didn't harden the 20 gauge beforehand, it would be a little too loose. Okay. So I do need to straighten this a tiny bit just because they're curving so much. The mascot has come back. And
I
is sitting
was
up.
having trouble with the basic weave, Lori. I seem to wind up with the center wire always winds up not attached to anything.
Okay, so you're moving. Okay, there's 5 wires. We
Yeah,
have 2 out this way and 1
Yeah.
straight up.
yeah,
This one moves over past 2 wires.
yeah.
This one moves over past 2 wires. So
mhm,
now your one that was in the center is now wire number 2.
Yeah, okay,
So when you move that and that, then it's now wire number 1 and comes in. So
okay.
yeah, I actually drew it out on paper one day, like had it palmed out like a palm leaf
Yeah,
and had space 1, space 2, just because it made it easier for people to see what I was talking about. Okay, so I'm just going to give these a quick straightening. I'm not going to do much hardening on them. I just want to be able to work easily with them. My wire that I buy, the big spool, it straightens really quickly because it's not around a little spool, it's like around a big one. So it doesn't take as much straightening. Work hardening, it does, but just to straighten them, it's much quicker than with the small spools. And if you go slowly, it straightens better. When you're going fast, it's like curling ribbon. When you rip it through the scissors, it spirals all up. So take it easy and slow if you're just straightening. If there's no big kinks in it, you can do it slow. If there's kinks in it, do it quick a few times and you'll get through the kinks. All right, so we have our wire. We want them flat. So one next to each other, nice and flat. One layer, whoops, sorry. One layer this way, 5 this way. And we just take a piece of masking tape. And I like to tape the whole length of the masking tape just to hold it, because we're going to go back in and reweave that end piece. I just find that reweaving that end piece makes a huge difference, because we can never get it to go perfect when we start a weave. So, and I'm going to move these over. Let me just get my thumbnail in between. No. They aren't separating for me. 1, 2, and then I like to go to the other side and pull just because it makes it a little easier. Oops. 3, 4. This is our center one right now. Okay, and I'm also going to grab out 3 crystals right now so I have them handy. Let's see what these are. I have some here that are almost empty, and I think I probably have about 3. Oh, they're wire wrapped. Okay, so I have to choose from here. All right, so I have my 3 crystals. I'll lock that down in case I drop it. And we start right at the tape, holding our thumb and finger really tight around that wire. And you'll see as I bring it over, I'm causing it to have a little loop there, just so that there's the start of our curves. Okay, and then I switch to this side and bring this one over to here. It's now in space number 3. Okay. And I just literally keep going there, 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 and there. And I move my hand up as I go. Okay. Again, if it's too loose like mine, just squish it in a bit. And you can adjust them to perfection if you really wish. With a pair of pliers afterwards, just pulling them out a little bit or pushing them in a little bit. The wire is very forgiving. Okay. And now I'm going to start over here. So I'm trying to come up with a bunch of classes for the youth in my neighborhood where they don't need tools. Do you know how hard that is? I have come up with a couple of them, but it's a real brain teaser, what they can use around the house instead of tools. So that's my new thing. And I'm moving over, So you see, Brian,
Yeah.
every time I move into the center, I'm repositioning the one that was in the center. So this one is my center one right now.
Yeah.
When I bring this one over, now this one is my center one, and this is number 2. Okay.
Sorry,
And that's,
any size wire?
I'm sorry?
Did you use any size wire for this?
Inside wire?
Size of wire, the size of.
Oh, I'm using a 20 gauge, but you should use an 18 gauge. And I cut them 10 or 12 inches. I think I measured 10 inches. Yeah, I measured 10 inches. They just seem a little long for me. And I just keep going. Oh, I didn't put my crystals in. Sorry. When you get, and I'm going to take this back a few strands. It's so easy to take back because you know where they came from. This one goes there. Okay, so now I have my center one here, and I want to drop my first crystal on. And I just drop it on my center one, whatever wire is in the center at that moment. There we go. Okay, now my last one to move across was, where did it come from? Came from the right. So I'm going to go to the left and across. Now, I'm going to go from the right across, left across, right across. Now I want to drop another crystal. So I go through twice after one crystal, drop another crystal, and go through twice. This doesn't feel like a crystal. Yeah. Felt really smooth instead of faceted. Okay, and this one came from the right, so I come from the left and from the right and from the left and the right. Now I drop on my last crystal. And I may have left it a little bit too long. Sorry guys, I was getting into the weave. But the reason I wanted to do the straight one first is so you can sort of gauge where along your weave you want to drop your crystals on. Okay. So you see mine are too far in. They are, but I didn't want to take it too far back because this is longer than it will be over here. But if I had been paying attention, I would have known I should have dropped them back about here. Okay, so that's why we have this one, our first one, so that we can see where we need to drop our crystals on. Okay, so you want to measure, hold the spiraled part to where the tape is, and figure out center, and drop your crystals in there. Okay, make sense? I hope so.
Yep.
Okay, good. All right. So again, I've been talking, so I have to check to see where my last wire came from. And it came from the right, so I'm going to the left. And the right, and I'm just going to finish off my bracelet. Now I did this one with 3 crystals. You can do a crystal all the way along if you want. You can do 5 crystals, 7 crystals. You can do a single crystal. You can mix them up in color. You could have a deep, deep blue crystal in the center and then lighter crystals out to white. That would be gorgeous on the silver. And you see how they hang out there? Crystals. You sort of hang in between the weave. You might get it where they slip over or under one. Just move it back and squish that. Okay, so I'm going to do another couple of turns here of the weave. And then I'm going to trim it. Okay, maybe one more. And if you are making a bracelet for someone else and it's too big, pull it or squish it in, okay? Or sorry, if it's too big, pull it out a bit so that it's thicker and not as long. If it's too short, squish it in. Now, when I'm mailing these to people, when I have orders for them, I mail them like this. and explain to them that they have to wrap it around their wrist, because this will go in a standard envelope for whatever standard pricing postage is now. If you round it and ship it, you have to pay parcel post. So always remember, it's easier for them to do it afterwards. All right, so we take, oh, I have to trim still. Just gonna trim a little bit. This is pretty standard shape right here. This side's a little bit off. Come on, it keeps getting caught on the one above it. Oh, come on, please. I always keep my finger on the end of my wire so it doesn't fly. And there we go. Now you can design the end of your piece the way you like it. When I learned years ago with this one, it was a lot different than what I do. I've sort of made it my own, like I do with any project that I teach. I've made them my own over the years. So, tiny little loop. When I was taught, you just did the one loop and brought it down. I kind of like the spiral better. Okay, so that's my cutter. I'm going to put it away. Take your flat nose plier, and we're going to put this loop in there flat and twist. Now, if you've taken my wire wrap stones class, do you know this movement? Because we do this on the wire wrapping of the stones. Bring it into the front of your piece. Just tuck it. Okay. Now I'm going to turn it. So this one, when I tuck it, will go on this side. Just because I like to work from the right to the left. Whoops. Keep pinching my finger today. Come on. Okay, so our tiny little loop. And if you can't get your loop really tiny, don't worry about it. You know, it's as long as there's no space there for something to catch on, that's good enough. And we just hold it and turn, and it goes on this side, yeah. You want all your spirals to be on the same side of the bracelet. Okay, let's start with this one. And it doesn't really matter which one you do first. I just tend to work from the bottom up to the tip, and I turn it left to right so I can work easier. Okay. This is one of my favorite woven bracelets. It's delicate, it's sweet. It doesn't take a long time, as you see, but it's just a really pleasant little piece. And I like the Celtic influence of it. I keep meaning to do one as a crown, like a hairpiece crown, and I've never gotten around to it. I think it would be lovely as a hairpiece, in more with, you know, a few going up and around in a little curl. So that's a project I should maybe take on as soon as we have time on our hands. Okay, and this goes to, oh, I put one on the wrong side here, sorry. Let me just pull it up and move it to this side. There, this is what happens when I talk too much. Okay, so now they're all on the one side, and I'm going to do the final one. Remember, we want the final one to be a little bigger. And tiny little loop. If you have a pair of pliers that are a little bit smaller at the tip, they would work great. And just rolling it. Now when I work with the wire rather than the piece, I roll the wire around the pliers, but this one, because it's attached so closely, I can't do that. So I have it there, and I want to flip it over and in front. So there's the one end. Hope you can see it okay. I know silver is, so let me try turning this on. Does that help? Okay, so it's just little spirals all interjoined together. We're going to go to the other side. We have to have this on for me. Pull off our tape And pull your tape off gently. You don't want to pull your wire too much when you're doing it. And just straighten these wires out. Just sort of feel to where they were in their last turn and place them in that spot. Okay, these were easy. They really showed me where they needed to be. Okay, so I have that. One of my crystals moved, let's see. So I just push it back into the place. Oops, wrong way. Let's see, should be right here. And I just want to push that so it holds it better. There we go. Now it's back in place. So you see, I don't have as much space here as I do here. I should have done that. Let's just trim this up and place the spiral so it's not too far over to the side. Okay. Now I want a little bit off that top one because it is pretty long here. And there and about there. Okay. And we're just going to do the same thing over again. Little spirals and in, or little circles into a spiral. And I want to put my cutter back up there so I don't grab it. I should ask Daron if they have a different color sleeve part that they can sew me, just so I don't get them mixed up all the time. I know they have some tools that are orange, so maybe I can request a pair of orange plier handles. Okay, and I'm going to do this one. Little loop. And again, I went a little too far on my loop, so I'm just going to squish it in place. It just flattens it when you do that, that's all. And rolling it around. Little spiral. And I want it on this side because that's where my last one went. So I'm just going to swing it over to the back here and swish. And I'm going to do the same with all three of these. So if you want, I don't like picking up tools, putting them down, picking up, putting them down. You can make your little loop on all of them at once and then go back to your other pliers. It makes more sense to me to do this sort of thing where I'm doing it all at once rather than pick up, put down. Okay. Just like when I'm doing wire wrapping of like a basic loops, I bend all my wires over all at once, then I round them all at once, then I cut them all at once. I don't teach it that way because you need to see it over and over how to do the whole process. But when I'm doing it, that's how I do it. Okay. So I'm just rolling it and my spirals are on this side of my wire. And now when I turn it, I have to go on this side of my wire because I've turned it over. Okay. Any questions?
How do you finish the bracelet?
Just like I'm doing now. So let me just get this one in place and then I'll show you.
How does it stay? Anyways, I'll
Okay,
wait.
so watch. You just round it around like so, and it stays. I've worn this style bracelet out for a few days in a row when I first designed it, when I first started doing them, to make sure it stays. And I never lost one.
Okay, I'm not interested in that type of finishing at the end. I
Okay.
want it to close.
Okay, so what you can do is put a jump ring here,
Right.
a jump ring here with a lobster clasp, and just hook it.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Really easy, but it is one that, you know, it's easier for some people to get on and off if they can't do the jump rings or the lobster clasp.
You could do a chain. Excuse me. You could do jump rings and then a wee chain.
Yeah, or a
That's-
chain of jump rings,
Yeah, that would look
like
nice.
a little extender. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, but it's a very simple piece. I really like the simplicity of it. Okay, so let's finish the last bit here. And let's start with my little loop and round it down. Now, when you're doing this, make sure you don't do the mistake I just realized I did and do spirals on this side and spirals on this side. So I have my spirals on two different sides of it. I'll fix it later. It's not even difficult. You just swing them around. But it's just more or less paying attention while you're making it. Actually, I'll do it now. So if I want to move it, I just bring these ones that I finished out a tiny bit so I can get at the ones there. Move these first two around to the back, like that. Then the second two around to the back. See, very simple to fix. And I'm going to finish this one up. Okay. Okay, and again, this one, I just like to flip it over everything. You could leave it like this, like a little fiddle head almost. But I think when we bring it down, it just cements it, everything in place better. So my crystal should have been over one more ring. Maybe I should have thrown an extra one in there and then it would have worked. But you get the idea of how to place the crystals. It's always on the center one, and then you go over and over, over and over, and then another crystal. So and you can decide to do crystals every turn if you want. I would always put them on the one from the right rather than right and then left because they'll bunch up. You do need just like one little weave in between. I have two weaves here in between. You could do one weave back and forth and then throw on another crystal. Okay, and what's our time? I'm not sure.
2:54.
Oh, perfect.
254.
Perfect. I don't know how, but they always seem to come to the right time. Okay, I'm going to try and switch cameras. Give me a moment to get that toggle switch to work again.
Lori,
Yes.
instead of taping it plain, why don't we do the spiral first and then tape it?
Oh, because you're going to have, you need the tape to hold it together while you're working.
Yeah, after spiral, still you can punch up and tape it
Oh,
there.
you mean spiral them and then put the tape on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that it would work because you're overlaying them like this.
This tape is tight, right?
No, but listen for a second. If you're overlaying those spirals, those wires are just hanging. When you do it at the end, those wires are already in their place and they're really stiff and there. You spiral them, they stay. I think if trying to overlap them before you start your weave, they won't stay, they'll just fall apart.
Oh.
If you get what I mean.
I just finished it. Then I thought, why didn't we do it first and tape it?
Yeah, no, if I had all 5 spirals here and I'm trying to keep them in place and starting to weave, I don't think it would work because they can't overlap and hug each other unless there's tension here.
You know that.
Yeah. Well, I think there'd have to be tension here for them to stay together.
Okay.
Yeah, but good question.
Thank you, Lori. Have a good day.
Yeah,
You're welcome. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Let's